Okay. Okay, so welcome. I believe we are live. Welcome to Spilling the Tea with D Part 6. And this week, or this particular episode, it's not been weekly. It's kind of been authentically whenever I feel like getting some people together. We're going to be talking about being black in the fitness industry. So I just want to make sure that we can see everyone. I just want to make sure that I am sharing the correct screen. We are live and recording. We're going to move to gallery view so we can see everybody. All right, awesome. So before we get started, I really want to introduce this exciting panel. I'm so excited to be amongst such amazing fitness professionals, and from here, from Canada, as well as from the US. So we're going to give a great perspective from the Canadian perspective, as well as from the US perspective. And without further ado, I just want to introduce the lovely Connie Martin. Give us a lovely wave. Connie is a 35-year veteran in the fitness industry. She teaches over 12 different modalities, and she also has experience as a retired school teacher of over 32 years. Many accolades, fire emoji, gunshot. She's gotten the SCW Fitness Idol competition winner, Midwest Mania 2016. So my girl has some accolades, as I mentioned. Also the co-owner of the Move Fitness and Dance Education Convention, which is the first black-owned, yes, sister girl, the first black-owned accredited fitness convention in the world. So 2 snaps for that, absolutely. And we have the lovely Patty Dukes. Give us a lovely wave. And Patty is a group fitness instructor, professional dancer, and she also owns her own studio as well. So lots of experience there. We have Steve and Synonym coming back with us. Steve, Mr. TikTok himself. And Steve is a full-time fitness professional who believes in empowering and amplifying others leads to endless possibilities of change. And last but not least, we have the lovely Kissy as well, who is a group fitness instructor with over 9 years experience working in the Toronto area and internationally. And she also is an international Zumba fitness presenter and has produced her own events such as workshops and master classes as well. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking some time on this Sunday morning to get into this topic. So just quickly, how are we all feeling today? How we feeling okay? How are we doing today?
Blessed.
Yeah. Awesome. So I thought before we get into just talking about our stories and our experiences, I think it's so important to just define certain terms. Often what happens is that when we have these conversations about race and racism, we tend to rely on what information is put out in the media, and it's not always the correct definition, or at least have a common understanding of the terms that we're going to be talking about today. So I think we most of us understand that race is a social construct. This literally was just pulled out of somebody's butt 400 or 500 years ago. We really are only one race, the human race. There's no scientific evidence that connects melanin in your skin to your intellect or your abilities, but this construct was created for really the purpose of dividing us into color groups to hold power and wealth to those that have least amount of melanin in their skin, which are called white people under this construct. And just to understand, when we talk about race, we're just talking about really a social construct that unfortunately has affected us even today, hundreds of years later. And when we're talking about racism, it really is, I think the best definition I came across is prejudice with group power. So we all have biases, we all have prejudices, but because of this construct that has been created, and because wealth and power exist in those that are mainly white, what happens is that when this power is exerted to a large group of people where they're affected, then this is racism. So it's not about an individual. People tend to just think about individuals or one individual act. It really is about a construct. It's about a system that tends to negatively impact people who aren't in that group that hold power and wealth, which we know are white people. Not every white person is wealthy, we know. I know there'll be people commenting, I'm not rich. It's not about what's in your bank account. It's kind of where the majority of the wealth and power is being held today and how it impacts other groups. And that leads into institutional or systemic racism, which is really the demonstration of that power. We see that in our healthcare systems and how people of color are oftentimes negatively impacted. We see in our education system the things that we're told on our histories, on our abilities. We see that demonstrated in the media of how people are portrayed, and we also see that in the socioeconomic system. So I just kind of want to start off with our definition so we understand where we're at, and then we can talk about our stories, and that way it gives people a little bit more understanding of, when you have that backdrop and the understanding, then you kind of see a little bit where we're coming from. So let's kick it off. Let's get our tea. I'm going to take a little sip myself for all that talking. All right, so let's start it off. So let's start off with the first question. And how has being Black in the fitness industry shaped your experience? Maybe we can start off. Who wants to start off? Stephen, maybe we'll start off with you. I'm going to pick on you because you've been here before.
All right. So how has it shaped me in the fitness industry? I think when I first started out, I didn't really, I was really excited about being in the fitness industry. I didn't really notice my race playing a role in the very beginning. But as you go throughout your years, and many of us here have many years of experience, you start to see little, I guess we can call them microaggressions within our career in our fitness industry, and the opportunities that seem to be available to all fitness professionals, but it doesn't seem like all fitness professionals are represented in these opportunities. So I did see lack of opportunity, which leads to lack of representation. And sometimes when I would speak about lack of opportunity, people would really, and from a politically correct, let's say, point of view, so as not to offend anybody, not call anyone racist, just to bring light to the situation, did you see there were 6 positions and then all these are filled with the same kind of person? Do you think, is there any way that, or why do you think, first let's say, why do you think it's filled with all these same people? And they say, well, we've given everyone the same opportunity. And then I would suggest, well, for these 6 positions, how is it possible that not one other type of looking person is able to fill this responsibility? So sometimes the conversation had to stop there because people would get super defensive and they would think I was being aggressive or problematic, or the person who's continually talking about race, which I will do to the day I die. I will continue to talk about that. But for me, that's where I started to see it in the beginning, in just little spots and little spots.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to add to that?
I'll add to that. My experience was that when I first started teaching fitness, I would enter into a gym where I might have been a prospect of where I would like to teach. And at that time, it happened to be a YMCA. At that time, there were no other African American instructors. There was no other brown skin or Black faces. And I had to really think about that because in my experience, I actually did experience that. I was the only Black graduating from my 8th grade class. My family was the first Black family to integrate Shorewood, Illinois, which is a town that's right on the west cusp of Joliet. So I was the only, and my two sisters as well that entered in 6th grade. Couple came in with them, but I was the only Black in my 8th grade class, and then it transferred into high school. All my friends were white coming into high school. So definitely my freshman year was a culture shock for me. And it was the same way with fitness. It was kind of like a culture shock to go in there and muster up, knowing that I had that experience of being the only Black. Can I go into the gym and ask for a job or apply for a job? I did apply for a position. I didn't get the position, and that prompted me to go back to my church. I actually started teaching fitness classes in my church as a ministry. I did that for about 4 years and gained more experience, which was good. Gained more experience there, and not only trying to get my cueing skills down and just trying to come up with safe and effective moves that would keep them coming back as a congregation. But then after I felt more secure with some of my teaching skills, then I went back to the gym, and I was actually hired with my sister. My sister, Claudia, started she got in a position at a gym in Joliet and invited me to come on and apply for a position. And I did. And I started teaching land classes, step classes, strength, and aqua. So that's kind of like how it started for me. But I understand that it would be how it was kind of difficult back then. And I'm talking back 30 years ago when it was really hard to get into the industry.
So when you were born, because you don't look like, when you say 30 years ago, I'm like, okay, so you were born and then you started teaching fitness. Okay, darling.
Thank you. Thank you. But that's been my experience as far as I know, how it's kind of shaped the culture in which I am in now, and how I feel about teaching in any particular gym. You just have to go in there with an extra air of confidence and an extra air that you are better, even though we know as taught as children that we have to be, as Black, we need to be better than our white counterparts.
That's what I heard. You have to be 10 times better. It's a message I often,
yes.
Yeah, not just better. You had to be, because we are often given different goalposts, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Please continue. Who wants to jump in? Kissy, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I feel to a certain extent have kind of experienced the reverse. I've experienced probably the tokenism, where I was brought in because I was Black, because I needed to fit that quota, that I was lighter skinned, that I was eclectic with music, that I wasn't just gonna, fit into a certain box of fitness. I had more diversity to me, and I was the one-off. So in a staff of 20, I was that one. In that focus group, I was that one. So almost as if I was representing a whole culture, a whole race for that one particular organization. Where obviously my experiences are vast, but I do not by any form represent the mass by any stretch. Right. But that's been more my experience in the fitness.
Don't you love that when you get those questions? So, Kissy, on behalf of Black people, can you? Yes, I'm speaking from Zamunda to for everybody on the globe. Yes, we had a meeting. We had this meeting, and this is what we decided.
And as much as I love to throw my opinion out there, I'm educated enough to know that I don't hold all the answers to everything. But but yes, I felt that in many circumstances, especially early on, where I initially thought it was great, an opportunity. I'm breaking barriers. That's how I took it on initially, because I'm the first of hopefully many. But I haven't seen the many. I've seen a few. I've seen more opportunity, but it's still not the many that I was expecting. So that's kind of been my initial experience.
I'd like to add, I'm fairly new to the fitness world, especially compared to you guys. Maybe 5-7 years in. But what I've noticed is, so when I was younger, I was an athlete. I used to work out. I was a dancer, that kind of thing. You watch TV, you see them working on the beach. I forget what the guy's name is, Gil, and this, that, and other. And the only Black girl we would see is Donna Richardson. Yeah, right. So she was the only person that we actually really saw coming up as an African American. But most of the formats were pretty much the same. Most of the movements, most of the looks, everything was pretty much the same coming through the 80s, through the 90s. And even if they adjusted, they only adjusted slightly. Now, culture has changed drastically, from music to dance to fitness to food to where you go to how you dress, everything. And because Blackness is hot and has been developing, and because in our communities we need to move more, we're pushing more exercise, we're pushing more health and wellness, we've come up with more dance classes, more this, more that. We like this, not so much that. So because people are creating or inventing these different types of things that keep them going, or they see something here and they say, oh, you know what? I like that, but let me try this here. What I've noticed is to keep up or to keep your thing fresh over here, the brands are taking from or adjusting from the culture. And so what they also need is, I need your energy. Can you teach me? Or let me come take this class from you. Let me do this from you. Let me borrow this from you. How did you do that? But we may not have all the resources to get to 2, 3 levels up, but they have all the resources. So what I've noticed is they'll come and take classes or be, and it's not everybody, but it's just the cycle and the study of some that I've seen, and they'll take them back. And but they get the accolades for them. They get the accolades, they get the level up, almost like they have reinvented this thing, just like Kardashian with the braids type situation. And but they are adding some African Americans too, but like you said, it's not. And I think as long as they can get it enough to pass it along, then they get it to pass it along enough and they sell it and they take off with it. And so now they are reinventing the wheel that they've always had like an upper hand on, because our communities have been stripped, not just from I'm from Detroit in the US. And I remember years ago, our schools had gym classes, swim classes, all these other things that we would do. We would be exposed to all this stuff. I learned working out from gym. These kids don't have that anymore. They don't have all of the extra physical fitness activities. So they've been stripped from those things. And so we have to add them as extracurriculum activities or expose them to those things at home. Versus when I teach in other communities, it's a part of their everyday lifestyle. So from the grandparents working out every day, from it just being a part of what they do in school. I see these young girls running up the river or up the lake, exercising, because that is a part of their culture. And so we have to work extra hard to make sure that our people get it when they already have it. And so I guess what I've noticed is just when things are or have been the same, I've seen them trying to, or many trying to readjust by just coming over to make sure that they can stay relevant. Does that make sense?
What I'm hearing just from some of your experience, Patty, if I could just sort of summarize it, you've seen where there's representation issues from your experience for sure, and also just the fact that people they borrow, they come and they extract from our culture or from our knowledge or what have you, and sometimes don't always give the credit, but they benefit from the financial side of it. That's what I'm hearing, right? Yeah. Which has happened to me number of times. I know for me, from how it's going to shape my experience, I have a little bit of Kissy's experience where you are that one, the token, the one, and you have this weight as though I know for me there's times when I'm like, I don't want to run late because it's those people or if you don't do as good of a job, like you feel like you're carrying this weight for the entire culture as opposed to being just seen for who you are individually. So I know that has certainly shaped, and I've experienced where you kind of feel like, for me, I oftentimes feel like I'm walking on eggshells which have glass underneath. You got to watch what you say. You got to be careful because that you say the wrong thing. It's like I feel that as though we oftentimes have this extra burden of care that we have to put upon ourselves because the people in power are the ones that are paying our bills, and if we offend them in any way, we have to walk that line. Even just putting together this panel, I had invited many people, and I know that some, they didn't say it out loud, but I know some didn't want to participate just because there's a cost when we talk about these issues. We all know this. There's a cost. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to speak authentically, speak our truth. That's how we're going to move forward. But I don't wrong anyone who is not as brave, because somebody who's paying their check, and if you offend that white person, that's I totally understand why some will be quiet about it. I'm sorry, Steve, you wanted to jump in and say something.
I was just going to say, to illustrate Patty's point a little bit more, if people are not familiar with some things, let's say a term Afro dance class. So to Patty's point, people will come to Patty's class, girl, you're killing this Afro dance, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, Afro dance is happening all over these places, and then some fitness industry big label attaches their name to it, and then it becomes so popular, and they don't have one Black presenter representing Afro dance. Whatever Afro dance is, that is a term that is problematic on its own, and that's a whole other discussion. But they'll appropriate, like Patty's saying, they appropriate it. They'll take as much as they can, but they won't take us with it.
Yes.
That happens.
And then you're afraid to say, I'm not afraid anymore, but people become afraid to your point, Dione, people become afraid to say anything. You're like, you just took all my stuff. You called me for ideas. This happened to me over COVID. You called me for my ideas and asked me how I do it because you need to do it. I'm like, you can't just take people's ideas and not take their not include them in what they're the developers of it. It came from them, right?
Yeah, but then to their point, they're going to say, well, you know what, I'm helping educate and expand the culture, and it's a great benefit because now it's crossing cultural lines, and I'm teaching, you know, I'm spreading the experience amongst the masses, which is great, but the accolades and the credit never come back, and that's the part that I have the biggest problem. Never comes back to the source.
And then that makes us the angry Black woman.
Oh, let's
to that other angry Black woman syndrome when you speak up about what's supposed to be yours or something. So that's a whole nother topic. That's something else, but it does really roll over into that. I will say this: I took a class, fairly new, maybe about 6 years old. This format is new, and it's supposed to be a yoga class. And so I took the class because that's what I do. In the city, I travel around to different places and I take a group of people. We want to experience all things fitness around. So that's what I do. I took this class to see what it was. And I could not even sit still in the class long enough to even appreciate it, because they were playing this tribal music, and then they were chanting like these African supposed to be chants in the class while doing yoga with the tribal music, and it was completely off. But because it was new to them, I guess, or this collaboration, this fusion, this perfect fusion, it just felt off, like nobody else sees it.
Inauthentic.
Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a growing thing because it's new and this is what we're doing and it's tribal and it's yoga. It just, I don't know. Sorry.
And it's how people conceptualize.
Yeah, well, no, that's okay. We missed you for a bit there.
I was saying that's how people are conceptualizing African with this type of music and chanting. And that becomes their understanding of African, right?
Stereotype.
When they just appropriate it. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly what Connie's saying.
It's a stereotype.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some stereotypes. Patty, you spoke about the angry Black woman. So let's frame it in comes to fitness. Like, what type of stereotypes have you had to deal with in the fitness industry? And kind of let's talk a bit about some of our stories there. So who'd like to start? Maybe Patty, you spoke about some of the angry Black woman stereotype. How has that been in the fitness context? And do you want to share spill any tea on that?
I technically in fitness I haven't gotten there. I think I may have gotten that once, but from an African guy, because I kind of called them on the carpet about some stuff. But outside of that, I'm pretty likable. People kind of like me. But I technically, like, just personally, I haven't received anything like that. I've taken a back seat to something where someone has actually tried to use my business name, one of my organization's name, and I have unfortunately tried to approach it slowly so I don't come off as the angry Black woman. So I'm still dealing with that because I've built this name for myself, and then now all of a sudden you want to come and just kind of ease it through the back door, which is not appropriate. So I'm dealing with that and how it would look in the community, however it comes out. So y'all work with me with that, y'all. So.
No worries. Anybody else that's dealing with stereotypes? Have you experienced from the fitness lens? What are some of your thoughts on that?
I feel it's hurtful. It's hurtful to be stereotyped. So it affects your emotions about, and your feelings about how you want to perform in your craft, and the expectations that are put upon you because you're Black, and because Black people are supposed to have, perfect rhythm, and supposed to play, the perfect, African American music, and perform and speak in a certain way, and expected to have these, have outcomes, that it's not fair. I would like to be looked at, like Dr. King says, not to be judged by the color of my skin, but, by my character. And I feel like it hasn't been overtly like that, but it's been like subliminal. Like it comes out in a very, undercover kind of way. But then later on, you get home, you think about it, like, that wasn't really quite, that didn't feel good.
Yeah, Canada, especially in Canada, we are excellent at subtle racism. And I know for me, I've experienced these stereotypes. I'll give you an example, particularly when you're teaching a format that they don't expect or think that you should teach. Like I remember walking in and I was subbing a kickboxing class because I guess they expect I'm supposed to be doing dance only. And I would get oh, you're the instructor? It's like, yes. And they don't come out overtly. It's kind of like, oh, then you get these sort of questions like so you have to prove I got to show my resume, like, oh, so what's your background? What? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right, here we go through the resume. I got 20 years experience. I have martial arts background. I box. Oh, and like you have to, again, like it's not just, we don't get the benefit of the doubt to or the assumption of which is part of white privilege. Usually when a white person presents themselves, they get the benefit of the doubt as that they have the credentials, whereas we often have to do those extra backflips to prove that, yes, I deserve to be here, I was hired and I was verified and I was vetted, yes, I deserve to be in this space, and yes, I can teach other things besides dance.
I think it leads back to the point of representation. People just don't see our faces. So when we walk into spaces that we've been hired to do, they just think we're a participant, or even worse, custodial staff. They don't. So the lack of representation. Was that too much tea? Oh,
spill it. I have stories with that. Too many stories with that. Go on. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. We're out of towels. I'm like, oh, that's good to hear. Go on, Steve.
So I'm not defending these people who don't think we're professionals, but that's part of the problem, that when you don't see people doing something, you don't think they can do it. So when they're coming to do your job, you hired me, I know it was over email, you don't even recognize who I am. I'm the person you hired to do the job you asked to do, right?
Yeah, so we have to deal with that. Whereas, and I think it's good that we're having these discussions, and those listening can say that, of course, we're not talking about everyone, but there's enough of us from different parts of different countries that have gone through this experience. We walked into this space, we were hired for the job, and yet we still have to prove that we deserve to be there. And we're not here to pick up the towels. We're actually the instructor who's here to teach the class. So interesting thoughts there. Another question I want to put out there, as instructors, we're oftentimes, we reflect the energy and the environment in the room. So why don't we talk a little bit about from the participant experience, like what are some things that you've noticed perhaps in reactions, behavior, or have you had to adjust your teaching style because you might have been treated differently for being Black? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I have a couple of stories of that. I've been what I call myself dubbed the unicorn, as I call it, because I feel that I'll walk into a space ready to teach, and because what I present is so diverse compared to the stereotype of what they're expecting, I get the reaction of like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought, oh my goodness, I just wasn't expecting that. That was amazing. That's not what I didn't think you'd be able to do that. Like as if it was a shock. Like, wow, I could step outside of that stereotypical box of dance and Afro rhythms, et cetera, et cetera. And it's been positive for the most part, but then I'll also get that, oh, I was expecting you to do more dance hall. I thought that would be a dance hall class. Or, where are you from exactly? Like, what's your background? I'm Canadian. No, but like, where are you from? I'm from
I love that question.
Canada. Born and raised. I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
No, but where are you from? No, I don't need to explain all that.
Where are your people? What boat do they come in on?
I'm from Toronto, Canada. That's where I'm from. That's what it is. Yes, I have a heritage. What's my heritage? Oh, yes, we could speak on that. But the mere thought that I know rock and I know this and I know this discipline and that, it's like I'm a unicorn. Like it's like I'm some special entity that just walked into the room they weren't expecting, and that I find is so shocking to me because sadly, well, my benefit, those are the people that come back because they think I'm special, I'm unique in the market. So it's helped me, but it's just very odd to hear that kind of reaction. And I think it goes back to Stephen with the representation and being inclusive within the fitness industry, is that we don't see enough of us to represent these various disciplines and the vastness of what can be presented in the fitness industry by someone who looks like me.
Exactly.
And I think that's an odd experience that I get a lot from participants. Beneficial, but odd.
Mm-hmm. I find too is, and again, we don't want to make it seem like, because sometimes people may say, oh, you're sort of picking on sort of microaggressions, but no, it's a question is, would you ask that same question if it was a white instructor? Would you say, where are you from? I can't quite catch your accent. I've had that. I'm like, I don't know if you heard of a place called Toronto. And you should know, from I say Toronto, you know, because as Torontonians, we don't say the last T. So, you know, like, and I'm sure from Detroit you guys have, and Connie as well, I'm sure you have ways that you say certain words and people know, oh yeah, I know where you're from.
Illinois.
Right.
Illinois.
Illinois.
Pronouncing the S when we don't pronounce the S, it's Illinois. But I've heard people say, you're from Illinois?
Exactly. So it's that's just another level of challenge that we have to deal with. I mean, we have to deal with try to fight for representations from the management side, but then we also have to deal with participants who, to no fault their own, they are surrounded by media and they're being indoctrinated daily by certain messaging. So when they walk into a room, it's not that we know that they don't intentionally are trying to offend us, but we have to deal with the impact of the environment and then being able to have to respond to that professionally, and also finding a way perhaps to educate them, to let them know.
Lack of knowledge. If I can interject for a second.
Please.
Just coming from an education background, being the only Black teacher in my building for the last 15 years almost of my teaching career. We had a couple Black aides. We had 2 Black aides in our school, but I was the only Black certified teacher in the school. I want to teach Black history. I want my children, of no matter what color, creed, race they are, to learn about African American history, famous Black authors, famous athletes, everything. And it's just a lack of knowledge that is stemmed from the educational system, which is a byproduct of systemic racism, where they have not taught in our textbooks included crucial pieces of information from our background in Black history. And they want to just put it on to me, it's like a white perspective, because it's a white economy, and it's a huge deal for people to try to change the textbooks over to include information that would give them knowledge as they grow up and be able to spread that knowledge to children and the children's children. So what I'm saying is that it's just the lack of knowledge of even how we would react, or how the white culture thinking about how Black people would feel. Practically non-existent. Or they don't think about what they say or what they do or the actions that they've done, how it would reflect on me or someone of color. When you walk into a gym, a huge conglomerate gym that might have 90 instructors, and you're the only Black or maybe one other Black instructor in the entire club. That seems so disproportionate to me when I've seen so much other talent from African Americans, where to this day has made me want to hire diverse, presenters to come to Move Convention. And we are the actually first convention to publicly announce that we want to be diverse and hire people of many different colors, races, and backgrounds. So, in which we are. We've got people from all over the world presenting. Dione presented for us, in one of our conventions, and she can attest to know that we had, Puerto Rican, we had people from Curacao, we had from Australia, we have people from all over the United States, and Canada, to come and actually, when you see our presenter program, we are the most diverse fitness convention in the world. As far as hiring, if we have 25 presenters, we have 10 of them who are African American. Hello? Mm-hmm. That's because they're talented and they should never have been overlooked to begin with at some of the other major conventions that are going on in the world. So that tie into the feeling that white privilege has the mindset that they're going to hire white because white should be more talented anyway. It may be true in some people. Some people might take offense at what I just said, but I just have to say it. It looks the way it looks to me with my brown skin. It looks like I'm not being represented, or if I asked to participate in a particular program or convention, and I'm overlooked because of some financial gain that they wanted to have instead of inviting me for a more culturally diverse presenter set, which they should have done, then please don't advertise your print media with a Black person on the brochure or print cover. Main front person, maybe 4 people on the front brochure. The main person was African American, and there was 2 white, maybe 1 on the background. Then turn around, and this is what I'm talking about as part of systemic racism that was not recognized as systemic racism until it happened, and I had to bring the attention to them that that's what you did, and then turn down and I had every right to be in that position because I was not only professional, popular, and my session was snapping and hot, and people email me, why aren't you presenting? Why aren't you presenting? In this convention, we're looking for you. I'm like, I was turned away because someone else paid to be there or whatever. I was overlooked, and then I looked at it and it was all white roster in a 63% Black populated city. So if you don't know which city that is in the United States, it's Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
63% Black population in the city of Atlanta, where not one Black presenter was represented, where I was turned down. I was turned down to put a blonde.
That's horrible marketing. That's horrible.
Blonde.
That's horrible optics. That's horrible everything.
In my spot. So I directly, and I was shocked because I've never been that overtly affected by the systemic racism that was behind that thought. That probably wasn't even come to their mind or come to that, that's what they were doing. It's all about
because you were too good. And so that actually is what I was thinking about. I've seen people who actually get a lot of play, a lot of accolades, a lot of positions. They are Black, but their talent isn't going to overshadow anybody else. So they don't have to worry about, they'll come, they'll write, they'll be, and they have a group of following. But when it comes to making these people feel a certain kind of way because you're getting a crowd, your numbers are good, you're this, people are asking for you, people are requesting. No, you're not gonna make me feel some kind of way and me keep you on my roster. Never mind, we don't need you. Thank you. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, Pi. I want to speak to that because I had it was a certain fitness brand, which I will not call their name. I experienced that where, and a white woman even said to me, Dione, like I was getting like monthly hate mail. Like, I mean, people actually sat at their computers and sent me paragraphs of just, hating on me. And I remember this one colleague of mine, a white woman, said to me, and I was like, I don't understand why these people are just bothering me. And she said, Dione, to be honest, she said, they see you like a rocket. They see you taking off. And it intimidates and scares the heck out of them. And I think many times there are those, whether they overtly or subconsciously, are intimidated by our excellence, are intimidated by the audacity of Black people to want to be equal. And some of them react. It's like Jesse Williams said, it's like an animal being backed in a corner, and they scratch and they do what they can and they react, as opposed to recognizing that we can actually move arm in arm together and work together and uphold and uplift our industry. We don't need to be fighting each other, and we don't want to fight. We want to be able to just be seen for our talent and nothing else. So
I have
I think the lack of sorry, Kissy, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, I think as we're going through this and we're thinking organically, a lot of the things that I haven't applied for, even now, all this time in the industry, is in my head. I'm like, oh, they're just gonna hire the muscly white guy. So why am I even bothering applying? First, I don't have that fitness body type they're looking for, and I'm not white. So I'm like, and all I've seen for organization X is they hired this type of white-looking male. So why am I going to bother apply and waste all my time? But I also do want an opportunity and a shot. So it's like a rock and a hard place situation. Personally, I felt a lot of times because I see exactly the type of male they hire for all these things, and I don't fit that mold, right? Just in a anecdotal way, I thought I'd insert that for you guys.
No, that's a good point. Like, if you don't feel welcome by the imagery and the people that are already there, you feel intimidated to want to be bold enough to apply for that, or none of us really likes rejection, and we already have to, as Black people, have to deal with so much as it is. Just like that's another thing you don't want to deal with. So I totally understand. You're going to say something, Kissy?
Yes, I was. I applied for what I believe to be a prominent presentation within a certain format, and it was novel in the sense of for their program, but was explored several times throughout their whole format. And surprisingly, the amount of backlash that we actually got on a personal level from actually achieving this particular goal from my own quote-unquote people was actually quite surprising to me, because I'm thinking, like I said, we're breaking barriers and hopefully we're the first of many. But then it became more of the crabs in the bucket mentality, and that's because the inclusion wasn't there. So they saw that as now a lost opportunity for them, as opposed to finally we're kicking down the door and we're going to hopefully make more room for everyone else to come in. And it was quite surprising, because the intention behind it was really and truly to now involve as many people as we can, so we can all in arm link together and go through that door. And it was really disheartening to actually see the negative feedback on the side, of course, coming back at us for getting this great opportunity. And then on the flip side, when we needed assistance, these same people were one of the first people to try to throw their hat in the ring. They're like, yes, I'm willing to support, not knowing that we were aware that the whole time there was backlash. So it almost came to the point where the crabs in the bucket mentality is that if you achieve, I got to pull you down because I want to try to be as equal with you. And we never get anywhere because the lack of opportunity within is so minuscule. How I don't blame you for trying to pull me down so you can get your way, but that's not the mentality we should take. We should all rise above together and open another door and another door and another door. But the competition and the level of access isn't there. So you're right. I am going to try to pull you down, and that's completely the wrong mentality to take. But I see it happen so often.
I agree. Yeah, I've been there, and again, just to bring it back to our theme, what I do notice, because when I was experiencing that myself, I would think, okay, this is just a theme that everybody who's trying to rise goes through. But I realized, no, there seems to be something special about when you're black. As we see, even, I don't want to go into politics, but even for those of you, for Patty and for Connie, like, we watch and we see, like, for example, how Michelle Obama was treated, and how how the Kamala Harris. I'm not going to get into politics. We're not going to go there, but just how differently these women, or especially your former president Barack Obama, how differently they were treated. And it's pretty obvious that people in politics or whatever get criticism, people in leadership get criticism, but there seems to be an extra bit of just ugliness that comes, that when we try to hold a leadership position, when we try to achieve and break those stereotypes, break those walls, we have this extra layer of fight that we have to do to get there. And it's unfortunate. It's not something imagined. Like, Michelle Obama actually came to Toronto. I went to see her, and she says, guys, you're not imagining it. It's real. Because that's how I used to feel. I used to think, okay, it's me. I'm doing something wrong, and then you start having conversations with other people, and they're like, no, it's not just me.
That
Sorry.
level of self-doubt really does impact your craft. It really does. It makes you really second guess your approach to everything, on a business level, on a personal level, on a marketing level. It really makes you really question your strategies, your initiatives, your objectives, because you just don't know anymore.
But that's been
very stressful. It really is.
That feeling has been instilled in us since we were children.
Yes.
And that is something that our parents or caregivers have tried to make us feel like we are strong, and repeat mantras over and over. You are smart. You are strong. You are powerful. You are beautiful. Your color is beautiful, no matter what anyone else may say or give you the feeling that it's not. So that's been instilled in us all as people of color, that we have to do better than average, of course, better than best. We have to be, like Dione said, 10 times better than the next white person, to stand out, to be noticed, to be recognized, and to be given the opportunities that we've been denied for centuries. And it's getting a little, I see a little change, a little step-by-step change has turned over, at least where I'm at in my particular environment. I've seen a little bit of change coming, as far as, because of the effects of what happened with George Floyd, and looking at the transition of systemic racism by definition, which was only mostly accounted by politicians and civil rights activists who used that phrase 20 years ago. Now, how that's kind of changed over to a movement where it's requiring people to get their attention to do something about it and take steps to rectify the feelings, but that's going to take a while to do. But I've seen small things happening because of the effect of it that I'm thankful and grateful for, which I can see in mostly, like, in print media. Print media has improved in the past 2 months. You see a lot more Black and faces in print media because of it, and hopefully that opens up more doors and more opportunities for African Americans and many different levels in the fitness industry. Whether you're coming in as a first-time instructor, or you're a seasoned instructor trying to come into a predominantly white gym and get a job, or whether you're climbing up a little bit to become a presenter and you're trying to get hired at that position, or whether you're opening up a business in the fitness industry and you're relying on lenders to give you, the money to be able to open up your fitness business, or you're an entrepreneur and you need to take advantage of those situations. And I'm seeing a little bit of a turn, because people are being looked at a little bit more under the microscope of how you are reacting to Black people now.
Yeah,
I question that.
receipts. We're asking for receipts. You know, thanks for posting your black square, but we need receipts. You know, we need some. I want to see some transactions. We're watching. For any of you who may be watching this broadcast now or later, who may own a studio or in a leadership position, we're watching, and this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a 400-year structure that was built. And I think most of us don't expect it to happen overnight, but we expect to see that you're trying.
Yes.
Go ahead, Patty. You were going to say something.
I was going to say, I kind of question it. Yes, the media has changed, and you see the changes, you see the postings and things, but how much of it is really sincere? I think that's where I am. Because if you were already there, then we would have already saw the adjustments and the changes, and it would have already been kind of forefront in the first place. Is it just so you don't, I'm going to put the blood above my door just so you'll pass over my house type of situation? So that is what I question. That me and my daughter have that conversation all the time. Like, now, are they really, or is it just for face? I didn't realize, I really thank you guys for this panel. I have to say this. I didn't realize how much racism, I guess, affected me in the fitness industry until Kissy made a point. It does make me, all of the inventions that I have, all of the things that I come up with, all of the ideas, it does make me second guess how I move on it. It does make me second guess. If I pull all the way back to make sure, I have to make sure A through F is together, and then have a plan B for G through P, because if it's not lined up right, I know somebody is looking, or I feel like someone is looking and will swoop in, grab your idea and take it. And because it happens, and not just to me, but to our culture and to our people. It's been the way that historically, right, for centuries. So it has affected me in that way, and I don't even think I realized it, because really I was like, I don't think I belong in this topic for real, but I do, and that has really affected me, and it has kept me back for some years. So you're right.
Well, thank you, Patty, for that. What I find lately, well, with my social medias, I never did anything political. I kept it light and love. You know, inspirational quotes, you know, choreo here, promotion there, light and love. With the whole George Floyd thing, and obviously several years of this progressing to this point where, you know, 8 minutes of the most vile video I think I've ever seen in my life. To get to this point where now I'm on a panel discussion, being in this panel alone could potentially ruin my quote unquote brand.
Yeah.
And that, and I understand why some people don't want to necessarily speak on it, because, you know, you're now rocking the boat on the image that you presented for who knows how long. And to speak out on something that has sadly become quite polarizing these days, with all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, et cetera, and wherever you fall on that scope or that spectrum, just to speak on it, you're inviting yourself to comments, to critiques, to impressions now of you, where before, for me, light and love, now all of a sudden, if I start posting certain things, now am I that Black girl now? Now am I the one who's now all of a sudden Black power, militant? Like, it does take away, it does put an impression on your brand. It does. And I can understand why some people don't want to speak on it. But I want to say, silence is complicity. And you may not want to say it out loud on your media. You may not want to, you know, get your soapbox and preach on the street. But if you're not saying anything in your industry to some extent, if you're not standing up for the microaggressions that you may feel you've experienced, then you're agreeing to it on some level. And you can't complain then if you're not saying anything. You really can't.
Absolutely. And I go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
I just to Patty and to everyone's point with regards to media and having more representation in ads, on stage. That's part of the work, and then the other part of the work is why did we understanding the people who are in the decision-making positions, understanding in themselves, and that involves a lot of anti-racism training and understanding in themselves why they were making decisions accordingly. Because if you just start adding Black people into your ads because you think this is a solution, but you have to go back to what the real problem was why in my brain was I formulating that they shouldn't be there in the first place. That needs to be addressed, because if you don't address that, you just if nothing changes here, you just keep adding Black people, this same thought process will continue. So that's what's problematic about that. And I'll admit, until the George Floyd horribleness, I did not, like Kissy, ever put hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag BLM. I was so afraid. I felt it in my heart, in my mind, but I was so afraid to put that out to the public. I felt ashamed for several weeks that it took that for me as a person of color to do that. And I'm like, that's how systemic racism ate at me. I think,
That's deep.
It muffled you.
And you have to sit. Yeah.
Personal level, and okay, continue. Sorry.
No. Sit with that, my brother. No, and I'm with you. You know, I shouldn't say I've always, probably from my late 20s on, I became more conscious of my Blackness. But like many of you, I didn't want to speak out because, again, when the people that are paying your paycheck, you know, and it's really white lash, yeah, exactly. And also the fact that I believe all of us have white supremacy in us. And let me explain, because if you understand the definition of white supremacy, it's the belief system that white people are superior and therefore should be dominant. So, you know, saying anything that could offend a white person under our white supremacist society creates fear, creates a sense of, I can't speak, even though I'm speaking about truth. You know, you're afraid to speak out because, oh no, that person's not going to come to my class again. And I've had this. I've lost clients. You know, I've had, you know, where I didn't even initiate the conversation. I just simply responded, but my response did not stroke their ego. You know, I've had situations like that. So you're so afraid to speak out. But I think I'm happy that now more of us are saying, you know what, we're not giving two F's anymore. We're not going back. So we're demanding change, and either you're going to come with us and we work together, or the revolution will continue without you. Because I know for me, I'm not going to accept that you know, you're going to hire me with my level of education and training and expect that I'm going to keep the same rate year after year after year. I'm sorry, I'm going to come in and ask for a raise, and you're going to tell me, well, this is not excuse. No. I want to be paid for my, you know, for my skill, for my value, and I'm not going to be undervalued.
Yes, I've directly had to deal with that as well. And I want to say maybe a little bit off what Stephen said. You have to have that courage inside of you that is a burning flame inside of you to want to speak up about asking for the opportunities that are granted to any other white person.
Yeah.
You have to really think about, okay, well, I can be turned down just like anybody. If anybody, for whatever reason, of course, we don't know what value system they hold when we're asking for a job or asking for a raise or asking for an opportunity. So we have to break through those barriers and be courageous and speak up for ourselves, because nobody else will.
Yeah.
We don't speak up for ourselves, we won't, nobody else will. And then the situations never change, growth never takes place. And the knowledge that needs to be reckoned will never help to make light and love in the whole world. So it has to be that bold step in boldness, right, and confidence, like we've been taught in the Black churches, right, which has been another, you know, steadfast foundation for the Black community, to have that faith and that courage through God that will be with you and will help you transpire into everything that you want to accomplish. If you have that faith in God and that courage inside of you that He instilled in you to make changes in the world and to get the opportunity and put fold boldness to be able to ask for that raise or ask for that position or that opportunity that you feel in your heart should be granted to you, whether they feel it or not, or they're a racist, undercover racist, and they don't really realize they're undercover racist, but their actions speak louder than their words. So we have to overcome that and educate.
Absolutely. And if I can just add to that too, Connie, is that, there are white people out there. I mean, I know particularly since the murder of George Floyd, I've had what I call the SWWPs, the suddenly woke white people, that have been blowing up my my phone. And you know what? As much as like with you said earlier, Patty, like, are they sincere? Like, to me, it's like a gift. We all have different gifts, and we open our gifts at different times. So I think that there's white people out there who are sincere, but for whatever reason, it took this to wake them up. I'll meet you where you are. I bring you in and say, okay. But at the same time, I'm going to give you tough love and say, you need to do work. So if you want to be our allies or our accomplices, you need to put in the work, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, I'm sure, like many of you, I'm the black friend for hundreds of white people. I can't hold you up. I can't explain everything to all of you. You got to do some research, man. You got to carry the bucket, for a bit, because we've been doing it for so long, and our feet are tired. So if you really want us to have a more equal society, then do the work, because we need you. We need white people as our allies. We want them as our allies and our friends. And if you really call us your friend, not just friend for the sake of racial cover, but actual friendship, then we need you to ally with us and to continue to work, continue to have the conversations, and show the receipts and the actions. We oftentimes aren't walking into the boardrooms, but if as a white person walking into a boardroom, you should be like, why is everybody here white? And challenge it. Why is everybody on this board of directors white? And challenge it. And there are some that are doing it. Like, it's not, Connie and I, a mutual friend, that he's doing an excellent job of challenging that and bringing more diversity. And we have to keep putting the pressure on them to keep saying, where's the diversity here, and what are you going to do about it?
I think I had a situation recently too with a manager who had called me and asked if she was doing enough with regards to the racial equity within the decision-making ability she had. I said, you're doing enough within what decision-making abilities you have, but when you get amongst your peers and you told me you've put people of color forward and they haven't been chosen, and you just sit in your peers and don't say it, and you realize in your head that's maybe not cool or not right, it's at that point that you need to be brave enough and courageous. Like Connie was saying, you need to be courageous, because you're sitting in a position of power that the people you're trying to amplify and lift up do not have. And at that moment of time, that's when your voice needs to get loud. Whatever that means for your life, after you say that, you have to accept that, be courageous enough to accept that. And if you want to amplify us and lift us up, that is how you do it. Not just suggest and no one says anything and you're all looking at it and knowing what's wrong here, and not one person says anything. That's problematic. That's how sometimes I feel like that's how you can be an ally. Use your voice. You have the power. And like Dione said, many of you said, there's lots of wonderful white allies we have that are doing the work. Yeah. But more of them have more power than us. So we need more of them to do more of that work. I know that people are going to say what they have to say about me, and we've already talked about this is problematic being on a panel like this, but that's the tea. Use your voice so I can use mine more. That's how it goes.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be horrible to hear some of these stories. It's gonna be, you have to dig deep. This isn't gonna be easy. Only time will tell. I know right now, Black is trendy. It's hot right now. I was told specifically, you know what, within the fitness industry, this is the time where you need to apply for anything and everything, because we're it right now. Like, to pass us over right now is like against the trend. this is the time to approach and do everything. And that's great for opportunity, but the conversation is much deeper. It's going to get very uncomfortable before we even realize it. And only time will tell on how long this will last. And if they put us on the boards, the advisory boards, they put us in those big meetings, if they actually represent us on the big brands, if they actually make more conferences that are for people of color, if they start making those actual real financial changes down the line, is really what will tell if they've actually gotten.
Yes.
And that's what we're fighting for. Just to add to that, like I remember having a battle online with anyway, some of these, Jesus Christ. But
I'm sorry, Dione.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, let me finish my point. No, sorry, let me finish my point. I'll let you. I just want to say that we have to keep in mind that the issues are larger. So we're not talking about the people coming up and asking if they can touch our hair or wearing cornrows or no. This is bigger than that. So. For those listening who may think it's just about that bad joke at a Christmas party, no, that's not what we're fighting for, or that people are marching the street about. It's about being able to have true equality through all levels of every industry, and in the fitness industry is what we're talking about. We want to be able to just have the opportunity, not a handout, but just equal opportunity. Sorry, go ahead, Patty.
No, you're fine. Even in the people that's walking, like you said, it's not just black and white. Although it is, it's not. Because there's going to be some uncomfortable space where we say that these white allies have stood for us, they've rode with us, they've spoken for us, they made sure we did have a seat or a space, where our black counterparts really hated on us the most, tried to steal from us, tried to do these things, tried to throw shade, because that part is absolutely real too. And so we just have to learn how to, Connie said it, to where we have to really be so confident in who we are, and as individuals and as humans, like you stated earlier, we have to be so confident in who we are and what God has given us, to where we aren't afraid, regardless of what it looks like on our left and on our right, to be able to move forward and walk forward in these gifts and exactly just who we were meant to be as individuals.
Exactly. And sometimes we have to, and I'm biting from a joke. There was a comedian, I forget who it was, it says sometimes when we have those infightings, and we have to understand that right now we don't have time for that. Okay? It's like if Cardi B and Nicki Minaj is having a beef, and then Taylor Swift tries to cause some shit. It's like, okay, Cardi, we'll chat a little bit later. Let's deal with her right now, and we'll come back. we'll finish. So we don't, like I said, I have no more time for that type of, bickering, whatever. We have bigger things to deal with. We're trying to deal with, these issues, and later on we'll deal with other stuff right now. But, we have to, even within our communities, realize, it serves no purpose in bringing any one of us down when there's so few opportunities. We just need to let's just get somebody in there, and then we can deal with it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then we can do the other stuff.
And let us all march
I think to Connie's,
gotta kick in
sorry,
that
go ahead.
door.
Go ahead, Steve.
I think to Connie's point, it's all really about education. Like all these diversity and inclusion initiatives, they're wonderful to hear, they're wonderful to see, but you can't just start adding whatever. So that in this, it's a racial issue. It was a gender issue. If it was a sexual orientation issue, regardless, you have to figure out why were you not including this? Not just start including them. When you start to create people who are in charge of creating diversity inclusion initiatives, if they don't understand their own value process, which one of you lovely ladies mentioned earlier today, you can't be able to create an effective diversity and inclusion situation for your gym, your big box gym, your insurance agency, whatever it is. And until you take the hard look at yourself, like Patty was saying, and educate yourself, like Connie was saying, you're not going to get where you think you're getting by just creating a diversity and inclusion. And also, the other thing I would like to say is that diversity inclusion committees, panels, whatever they are in these companies and corporations, you need to include the people that you're going to make the decisions for and who those policies and procedures are going to affect. If you're making decisions and you have no lived experience on that panel, on the decision-making community, it's not going to be as effective, because all those individuals won't necessarily have, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, ladies, but
others are listening.
The lived experience. So they're not bringing that. So I will very much, I'm not someone who pushes against stuff, but I'm like, I want people to realize, people in positions of power, and in most situations, it seems to be white people that I've been dealing with regards to this. I'm not fighting with them, but I'm trying really hard to get them to realize the importance of having those people at the table. You know, they're not going to the kids' table. Don't put them at the kids' table. Don't send them to the basement to have the dinner downstairs. No, bring them to the table, and maybe put them at the head of the table, because you have to admit you don't know. I need to get educated. Put them at the head of the table. Let them educate you. Oh, I need to go. I need to stop, ladies. I need to stop.
No. Spill the tea, speak the words. No, but it's true. That's one thing that annoys me. I've seen where the companies, we're going to put together this equity team. But think of it in terms of, like, if you were dealing with sexism. Okay, are you going to have a panel of all men to talk about sexism? No, that would be ridiculous. Okay, so if you're going to have a diversity inclusion team, you have to have people of color, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color in that committee, because you know, if you don't have, as I said, you don't have our experience, you haven't lived through our eyes, you know, you're only speaking about us, where we need to be included in the conversation as well and decision making. Sorry, somebody was going to say something. I think I cut them off. No? Great. Well, you know what? Oh, look at the time. We're passing so quickly. So just before we wrap up, I'm going to just finish off the final question, and we can go around the panel. What advice would you offer? We've kind of touched on it, but just any final points, advice that we could offer to anyone who wants to ally or be an accomplice to really help the Black Lives Matter movement, and particularly within the fitness industry, to help us really dismantle systemic racism in the fitness industry. So anyone can jump in. Any advice?
I would encourage more Black people to apply for positions and overcome the fear, like it goes back to having the confidence, overcome the fear of thinking I'm going to be turned down anyway because I'm Black, or, you know, I'm not good enough. So just get out there and have more Black people apply for the positions and flood the market with applications, because the opportunities are there. But whether they'll be looked at or not in one position or not is, we don't know. We don't have any power over that. All we can do is try. And if more fitness professionals, especially who are out there so fired up about being in the industry, they've only been in the industry, you know, 1 to 5 years, and they're looking for the opportunities to become an instructor in a facility or in a YMCA or wherever. And they need to just put themselves out there more. And if there was more of a flood of influx of applications from African Americans, Blacks, then there's more that they have to choose from to be able to fill positions that they deem that they need certain specific skill sets. So we have to have education, we have to have confidence, and we have to have courage that we can make a difference on, even if it's day by day, week by week, month by month, step by step. We have to take those procedures to start to change the way the country, the feeling of the country, the flow with systemic racism, knowing that we have to get over so many different obstacles in order to become successful. And the courage behind it, what I'm saying is because we have to deal with backlash of speaking out. So that takes an extra amount of courage. It already takes courage to apply for a position, no matter what race or color you are. It takes courage to apply for that position and think in your head you are qualified, right? But then to be Black, it's more than that. More than that. If they're going to look at me just because of my color, or am I going to fill a quota like what Kissy said, right? Am I going to be the only Black that's going to be in this position, and for how long, right? So being the only Black in a position, you feel like, oh, there's only maybe 4 or 5 other Blacks out of a whole 80 people on a panel, a board, or list of presenters or instructors. Is that percentage of only having 1 or 2 going to change over the years? I expect it to change. We all expect it to change. There should be 10, 15, 20 out of 80 presenters. 20, presenters or instructors in that building is not uncalled for. And it should be that way, right? We shouldn't have only 5 people, instructors in the building or in a business facility, and then you have 80 whites. It shouldn't. That's what I'm talking about. The type of things that needs to change. That outlook, it's representation, not only through personal employment, but by print media and social media. That needs to change, and that's the step by step that needs to happen by and encouraging the white community that we are open to join arms with you. Like Kissy said, we want to help and we want to be in that change with you so that it becomes a community of fitness around the world that feels comfortable working together.
Excellent, excellent. Who wants to add to that?
Connie's point, just a little bit. Basically what Connie said, have the courage to not feel fearful to apply for something. And if you have privilege, have courage to not be fearful to say to sit in complicity and not say something, And so courageousness is really sitting with me really well today, Connie, on both levels, to apply if you're underrepresented and if you're overrepresented or have that privilege. And if you see it looks wrong or it's problematic, it probably is, and have a discussion about it. You might be seen problematic or combative, but that's where the courage comes in, and that's where we can, like you guys are saying, link arms and move forward together, right? We just have to have courage.
Yes.
Excellent. Kissy or Patty, did you want to add to that? An advice that we'd help give to allies or accomplices that may want to know what they can do to help? What are your suggestions, if you have any extra?
As a fitness professional, I
think
it would be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Patty. Go ahead, sweetie.
No. Go ahead, Kissy. Go ahead.
Okay. As a fitness professional, I think it all comes down to education. Definitely educate yourself so that you have a variety of disciplines under your belt, so you have more in your arsenal, that you can be more applicable to all the opportunities that are available, so you're never labeled as being in a box. That's one. Two, in terms of education, is that a lot of people are talking right now. Everyone's got an opinion. But I think it's actually beneficial at this point in time to listen. You need to listen to the stories, listen to the experiences, learn from them. Everyone, whether you agree with it or not, everyone's got a point of view. And we got to be able to listen to all those points of view, whether we want to hear it or not, to get an understanding of the bigger picture at hand. And it's only until we get that opportunity to try to understand it fundamentally that we can really make change. And that comes on hiring managers, that comes in big box fitness store businesses, that comes on the advisory boards, that comes in trainings, that comes in conventions. It comes in on all levels in the fitness industry. And the last thing, I think it's just a matter of when you have the opportunity to actually say something in this regard, like exactly like in this panel, don't be afraid to say it, because now is not the time to shy away. Now is the time to really lean into it.
Exactly. Patty, my dear, you wanted to add to that?
Really quick, to our allies or to people that would like to be allies, I think some people have already been on our side. And what I say to them, because I've had people to reach out to me, is be yourself, right? If you know that there isn't an issue, if you know you've been writing, if you know that you are literally on our side and you see it, don't overdo it. Relax, be okay. Like you're already in the race with us.
No kente cloth, and okay. Okay.
An onk on the side of your house. You don't have to do any of that, please. Just you're fine. You're fine. For everyone else, I will say, you don't have to do the marches. It doesn't necessarily have to be a march. It doesn't necessarily have to be the extreme. If you still have an issue and you don't see, I heard this in a movie where the guy was giving a description of how they did all these things to this little girl. They mutilated her. they urinated on her, they did all these things to her, and he told them to imagine her being white. So to anyone who does not have a soft space in your heart or can't see past, oh, well, they were black and they shouldn't have been doing this and they should have complied and they should have did this, or yeah, they were good for this job, but this, imagine them being white. What if it was someone you knew? What if it was your niece, your daughter, your brother, your nephew, whomever it was? Imagine them being overlooked for something because they were white or for whatever reason. Imagine someone you know being killed because they were white and no other reason, because someone is having a bad day or whatever. That would be my simplest way for people who just don't think that they're racist, for people who just don't see that this is, no, it's realistic. This is where we are. And if you really are having a hard time with swallowing that pill, imagine that those people that got left behind were actually just white.
And if I want to add to that as well, that my advice is that there is power from the participants. So they drive the decisions that these clubs are making. So participants, or even people who want to come on our timelines and comment or tell us that we have the audacity to tell our stories on our timelines, take that energy and put it towards the institutions, right? Open your eyes and take a look. It's not an accident that you walk into a facility and the general manager is white, and the supervisor is white, and the personal training manager is white, and then the person who's cleaning the bathrooms is a person of color. That's not an accident. So participants, challenge that. Send the emails, make the phone calls, and say, what is your plan to make sure that your staff through all levels reflect the demographics of the area, right? Obviously, if you live in an area that's all white, that's what's the people are going to be. But if you live in a diverse area, like Detroit, Atlanta, Toronto, very diverse, that should be reflective of all levels. And yes, I understand that sometimes you may have a favorite instructor, and then ask yourself, okay, why is it that person your favorite instructor? Is it because they really do have the skill set, the presentation skills, and they've ticked off all the boxes? Or is it just that, well, I like the way she looks, and maybe the black instructor doesn't have that look, so you tend to shy away? So I think you need to sit with that and really just have some conversations within yourself to say, okay, why am I hesitating to support that black instructor? And then I'm going to go to the white instructor, because it makes a difference when they see, because many of the managers are simply making decisions based on participation numbers. It's not always about whether they're black or not. They're looking at participation numbers. So try to support your black, indigenous, and people of color in the industry by showing up at classes, by writing to the gyms, and also just not discounting our stories. This issue of racism isn't about what you have been through, it's what you don't have to deal with. There's many other issues you don't have to deal with that we all still have to deal with. So, that would be my kind of take on how we can have allyship, is use the power as participants, email, contact them, let them know we want to see diversity and more equality as well.
Absolutely.
Can we agree, though, that everyone is not going to be on board, and that this has to be okay, and we have to really be like, okay, well, then that's where you are. I understand. I don't mess with you right now, so let me move on. I think realistically we have to know that we can't pull everybody over to this side, and I think it's best that we know people for who they really are.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I think this time has certainly allowed me to clear up some of my social media very quickly. That block and that unfriend button has been like, okay, I know where you are now. And that's okay. Like, there are people that could watch the George Floyd video and then next day go back and do their yoga class and be unaffected by it. Those people, there's nothing that we can really do for those type of people. But speaking to those that actually do care and want to help, then those people, we're like, okay, let's work together. And it's not that you're doing it for us, like you're not helping those poor little lowly black people. No, racism negatively impacts everybody, even the people in power, because you're missing out on so much talent, you're missing out on so much opportunities, you're missing on so much different perspectives. So it's to everyone's benefit that we have a more equal society, not just for black people.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, thank you, panel. I've taken so much of your time. We've scheduled an hour, almost an hour and a half, because this conversation was just doing so good. Again, I want to just go through. Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kissy, for being brave and speaking your truths and being able to share these stories and let people know that we have a lot to offer. We besides the pains and the struggles that we've gone through, we have joys and many things as well within our culture that we enjoy and love to share. And we're just looking forward to continuing these conversations and continuing the work towards a much more equal and beautiful society in our industry. So if you have anyone who's listening, please, if you have any questions or thoughts, you can certainly leave your comments below, and we appreciate if you keep your comments respectful, but by all means, if you're able to leave any questions, I'd be happy to respond to them. And if you want to get in contact with anybody here on the panel, I'll be adding later on in the notes everyone's contact information if you want to reach out to them for virtual classes or otherwise. I'm sure by all means they certainly would appreciate you reaching out to them. All right, guys, well, thank you so much, and we'll end off today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and take care.
All right. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Dione.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
inviting me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.